This is Mornings
with Sarah McDonald.
on ABC Radio Sydney.
In terms of the bikes in your suburbs, have you got these Lime bikes and other rentals? They are convenient. They keep our carbon emissions low. They're really good for your exercise. And if you live a long way from a bus or a train stop, or you're just zooming around close in the city at night, they can be really, really handy. However, they can be a little bit of a menace on some streets. Now, Kelly Sloan is not against these hire bikes, but she is getting a bit fed up with the dumped, damaged and misplaced ones in the eastern suburbs area. She's the member for Vaucluse, and she's meeting with the rental providers this week to ask them to do more and to take more responsibility for these rental bikes. Good morning, Kelly Sloan.
Good morning, Sarah.
So what triggered this? What did you hear from a constituent?
Well, look, just to set the landscape, there are 4,200 e-bikes in Sydney at the moment. It's primarily in the eastern suburbs, North Shore, Inner West and the CBD. And the numbers tripled in the last 18 months. So this is a growing industry, but the share bike landscape is chaotic and it's unregulated. And at the moment, constituents are getting quite fed up because of the mess and also the impediment to people, whether the bikes are dumped in front of driveways or people with prams can't get past on footpaths. You know, they're cluttering our parks. And then the example that you're referencing, a gentleman who lives in Double Bay, who was trying to get home one evening to his home with his wife, walking across the road, and there were e-bikes on every corner. And he tried to navigate around them, but there were others sort of in the dark, and he tripped on one, got caught up in it, tangled. And as a result, and his wife couldn't get him out of the bikes and the clutter, another person had to come past and help them. He literally had to crawl to his front door, has 4 fractured vertebrae, has spent time in St Vincent's and is on painkillers and hasn't been able to return to work. So, look, this is an extreme example, but it's emblematic of a problem that we're all worried about and that is not being fixed.
So you are meeting with the e-bike providers this week in Parliament. What do you want them to do?
I want to understand what their needs are, because at the moment it's a vacant regulatory landscape. Other jurisdictions in Melbourne, in Brisbane and certainly globally have ways of better managing this problem. So I want e-bikes to remain. I'm a fan of them. If I ever tried to ban them, my teenagers would kill me.
Yeah, right. Mine too. Mine would be like, what are you doing?
But look, there are easy solutions. I've used them before in other places where you are required to return them to a safe spot. And if you don't, you keep getting charged for them. It's pretty simple. But at the moment, that doesn't happen here in Sydney. Why doesn't it happen?
Why doesn't it happen? That's what all my texters are saying. And you can give me a call if you have, some evidence from the streets around you on 1300 222 702. Liz says in other countries such as Hong Kong and Japan and America and Vancouver, I'm getting texts about Canada too, the bikes have to be returned to proper racks. Otherwise, you do get charged a lot more. Why can't we do that? Like, isn't that just a simple, adjustment to their technology?
So it should be. I initially, when I started getting more and more complaints from this, I wrote to the Transport Minister. They said it's not an issue for transport because at the moment the current laws don't accommodate this sort of new, innovative form of transport. But I went to council. Council's not responsible. They're frustrated. They sent me to the police. The police say they can't do anything unless these people are breaking a law. The laws don't exist.
You're an MP and you're getting the run around.
I'm getting the runaround and I'm trying to fix this problem. And at the moment, I'm hearing nothing from the state government. So this is a problem that is growing and it's a problem that's being ignored. And the companies are probably frustrated as well. They're working in a landscape where anything goes at the moment. So I'll be asking them.
Yes, but they can do the right thing, can't they? Because, it's in their
100%.
interests, right, because you also, they must not want legal action taken against them if they're being dumped everywhere and people are tripping over them because there's no way around except into traffic to get into them. Surely it's in their interests to act.
The companies need to do something or they're going to lose their social licence to operate. Even the gentleman that I referred to before, who is still walking around on painkillers, he is not opposed to these e-bikes. but he wants them cleaned up. And if the companies don't clean up this problem, they're going to face some pretty tough restrictions.
Yeah. We are talking about e-bikes. Kelly Sloan is the member for Vaucluse. She will be meeting with the e-bike companies this week. Hello, Meredith in Birchgrove.
Oh, hi, Sarah. How you going?
Good. What happened with you?
Yeah, I was outside Lifehouse in Camperdown on Monday, and I sort of crashed into there was a whole pile of e-bikes just right outside the entrance, and I sort of crashed into one, and then so I tried to pick it up to move it out of the way, and then it bumped into me, and they're really, really heavy, so it sort of hit me, and I wasn't badly injured, but then someone came over to help me to pick it up and move it out of the way. And then I went across the road, and then there's an orange one across the road just sort of dumped. So I moved that one as well, because there's plenty of people walking around there like me who can't see very well. And these bikes are just everywhere.
So you're vision impaired, Meredith.
I am, yes.
Extra hazardous for you. Yes.
It is, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so I try to move them if I do encounter them.
Yeah, but then why should you move them? I mean, you raise a really good point, and I think this is the danger of people. Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.
It is 17 to 9. Kelly Sloan is with me. She's a member for Vaucluse. Have you been adjusted in terms of the vision that you have, and you've been adjusting to that? These can be an extra menace. Kelly Sloan, what about personal responsibility of the riders? Like, is there also just a sort of lack of awareness by people who are hiring them about what they should be doing?
Well, absolutely, the riders have to take responsibility, and I would say the large majority do. But if you don't live in that area, if you're a tourist, you're not aware of what you're supposed to be doing. You use the bike, you drop it off, you move on. Some people are incredibly irresponsible, and they should be. But the companies have to take responsibility for providing the incentives for the riders to do the correct thing. And in some countries, they actually reward riders with a discount if they return it to a docking station. So again, there are solutions, and we need to provide the landscape to make it easier for riders to do the right thing. I feel for Meredith. I'm hearing those stories all the time, and I would ask Meredith and any of your listeners who have pictures of these e-bikes or who have issues to email me at vaucluse@parliament.nsw.gov.au, and I will speak to your councils. I will send your letters directly to the minister and demand that this problem is sorted.
All right. Well, Vaucluse at Parliament. That's a long email.
.nsw.gov.au, or you can reach me on my social media and message me pretty quickly that way as well.
Yeah.
But look, we can't do anything unless we get the evidence, and if you can send me those photos through, then I can show the e-bike providers when I'm meeting with them in Parliament today and demonstrate the problem and say it's time to take action, or you're going to lose social licence to operate in our amazing city.
Yeah, I think they are. Deborah in Woolamoo's just sent me some photos I can send on to you. Yes, they're dumped indiscriminately. They're an absolute hazard. We need to have the docking stations. I'm also getting a message saying the problem is if you have to return the bike to a hub, which I agree is the ideal solution, then this greatly limits where you can ride them, and people won't use them nearly as much. That is the quandary at the heart of this.
Yeah, there are plenty of places they can be returned to, and as long as they're returned safely off of footpaths, away from people's driveways, and in places that don't impede people with prams, then that should be okay. And councils in other areas have the right to set up an arrangement with the e-bike providers where they can determine those locations. You can have a lot of locations, and you don't have to have physical docks. All of these bikes are fitted with technology that work on GPS, and you can sort of geolocate where those places are. So I believe that is the area we need to sort of the direction we need to head. But the companies have to have the framework to work within. At the moment, that's missing.
I want to go to Katrina. Here's another story for you. Hello, Katrina in Queen's Park.
Well, good morning, Sarah. I'm glad you approaching the subject, and I'm really pleased Kerry Sloan's raising it. I do live in the east near Bondi Junction. There are lots of them around. They're really heavy to move if they're left on your footpath or blocking the footpath. I think there are lots of there are ways of doing it in other countries and cities, but I administered first aid to a fellow one night. I just happened to hear a funny noise outside, looked out, saw a blob in the middle of the road, and he'd come off his e-bike. He didn't have a helmet, and he was a nice young man. I said to him, "Oh, look, no helmet." He said there wasn't one with it, and I often see people riding around with them and they don't have a helmet on. I think it's because there aren't any helmets with the bikes half the time. This fellow, I would like to have rung the hospital and said, was he okay? Because he had a head injury. There was lots of blood around. Fortunately, I was waving in the middle of the street to stop a car, and they did stop and come and help me as well.
Oh.
So I could go and get some first aid stuff to stop while we were waiting for an ambulance. But so it is a problem, and I'm really glad Kerry Sloan's addressing it. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Katrina.
Thanks.
Yes, I mean, a lot of people are saying on my text line, Kelly Sloan, look, they very much support these. They're good for exercise. They're good for the environment, but we do need to get better at cleaning up. I mean, we did have them under the coalition government, didn't we? So in terms of setting it out, what went wrong in the rollout?
Well, I think this is just like any other thing. So we've been out of government for 18 months now, and in that 18 months, the number has tripled. So it's become a giant of an issue now.
But couldn't we have set it up?
Small and emerging.
Yeah, couldn't we have set it up properly in the first place so this didn't happen?
Look, perhaps that's the case, but I would just suggest that at the time it was manageable. It was in small locations and the companies were doing the right thing. People weren't getting injured as much. So look, let's address the problem that we're seeing now. Let's get it fixed, and that requires intervention by the current government, but also by the e-bike providers themselves.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time this morning.
No worries, Sarah. Thank you.
Kelly Sloan, the member for Vaucluse, and you can email her any of the photos you're sending me, vaucluse@parliament.newsouthwales.gov.au, or you can just look on her social media and send her a message.